story number one comes from Detroit. The Lions, who were already without Sam Laporta, already without Brock Wright, already without Khalif Raymond. Early in this game on Thanksgiving, they lose Amon-Ra St. Brown to an ankle sprain. Seems like the offense just never recovered. Lions lose 31-24, fall to 7-5. And now they are way behind in the NFC North are the Detroit Lions here, and not expecting Amon-Ra to play in this big game Thursday against the Cowboys. So, Evan, thoughts on the Lions Thanksgiving game and the fallout from the latest Lions offensive injury?
Well, the Lions have the Thursday night game coming up against Dallas, which, by the way, is the highest total game by far on Week 14 slate. And I already have that game written up and posted on the website. It's a fun game to break down because you got this. Obviously, you have a lot of potential scoring, but you also have this situation to parse out. Khalif Raymond is not going to play on Thursday. Brock Wright, I don't think is going to play on Thursday. He's got some sort of a trachea injury. That sounds horrible. Isaac Tesla played 92% of the snaps after Amon-Ra went out early on Thanksgiving. Tom Kennedy became the slot receiver, playing in 3 receiver sets, but the offense funneled through Jameson Williams, which you love to see. Jameson Williams remains set up to be a league winner down the stretch. I know that he had that goose egg when they played the Giants, and he was used as a clear-out guy. Lions are not going to be able to use Jameson Williams as a clear-out guy anymore. The passing offense is going to flow through him, and I think to Jahmyr Gibbs as well. I think that Jahmyr Gibbs also can benefit, at least on Thursday, because it doesn't sound like this is a high ankle sprain.
No.
With Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's probably only going to miss 1 game.
Yeah. I expect Amon-Ra to be back for that December 14th game against the Rams, but this game Thursday is going to be very interesting. Just another massive opportunity for Jameson Williams to stay hot here. Again, Jameson Williams, he did have one really bad drop, but a 37% target share. And we've seen this.
Throw was a little behind him.
Yeah, it was a little behind him. But yeah, I mean, that was a big play in the game. But regardless, 37% target share, you do not get that from Jameson Williams when all these guys are healthy. As you start removing guys, we can start pushing Jameson Williams towards 25 as a base, 27. And man, at that number, you're going to get a huge projection on Jameson Williams, given his peripheral stats here. Yeah, Isaac Tesla has caught 16 passes between the regular season and the preseason. 6 of them now have gone for touchdowns. I mean, I'm excited. And if you're in a season-long league and if you're in a tough spot, I think you can play Isaac Tesla on Thursday night here against the Cowboys. Yeah, I mean, dude is just crazy athlete out there making huge plays in the red zone, and they're on their 3rd-string tight end, and they're without their top receiver here also.
They clearly call plays designed for Isaac Tesla in scoring position, which is not something that you can say about most players that have, 11 career catches.
Yep. The Gibbs stuff, I agree with Evan. Like, if you were making a game plan for this game and you didn't have Amon-Ra, you didn't have Laporta, I would be trying to funnel as much as I could to Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs played 70% of the snaps on Thanksgiving. I know he was extremely inefficient, which is not the norm for Jahmyr Gibbs, but expect to see a ton of him on Thursday again. And then the last note that I have here, Evan, Terrion Arnold, one of their top corners, he's on IR, out at least 4 games here. And we saw this down the stretch last year when the Lions defense started to fall apart. It got wild. I mean, really wild games. And so it does not surprise me at all that the total for Cowboys Lions is up around 54, 55. Evan, do you think this Terrion Arnold injury matters to the Lions defense?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that that's their best cornerback, Terrion Arnold. And it sounds like he's done for the season, even if they make the playoffs, which right now they're just slightly on the outside looking in. I think they may have to win out to get in the playoffs, but it sounds like he won't even be back for the playoffs because he underwent shoulder surgery.
Last thing, Frank Ragnow, everybody got all excited because he announced he was going to come out of retirement. You know, he retired at 29 years old, one of the best centers in the league. Says he's coming out of retirement, goes to take his physical, can't pass it, and so he's not coming back to save the day for the Lions offensive line. So shout out to Frank Ragnow for at least attempting to come back, but is what it is.
Did he think he was going to make it through the physical with a grade 3 hamstring strain? I mean, or is he just so tough that he couldn't feel that he had a grade 3 hamstring strain? It's kind of a strange story.
It is a strange
and the Lions kind of needed him. I mean, Graham Glasnow has been injured. the interior offensive line has been a really big problem in Detroit, which is another key storyline going up against a Dallas defense on Thursday night that is loaded on the interior defensive line.
Story number 2. Let's go to Cincinnati for the return of Joe Burrow from his toe injury. I thought Joe Burrow looked healthy, mobile. He moved well, maybe a little rusty at times, but he dropped back 50 times in Baltimore, even in a game that they won 32-14 and didn't have T. Higgins. He still dropped back 50 times, doesn't turn the ball over. Evan, what did you think of Joe Burrow's return to the saddle on Thanksgiving against the Ravens?
I was really impressed by the Bengals offensive line. This was the best protection that the Bengals offensive line had provided for any quarterback all season. I don't know that means that they're flipping a corner. I think the Ravens are led in sacks right now by rookie Mike Green, who has 2.5 sacks on the year. I mean, that can be very, very detrimental when you can't rush the passer at all. But the Bengals held up against whatever the Ravens had to offer, and I thought that was really good news. I think that the big story I think Joe Burrow is going to be great. The team had 80 offensive plays.
Yeah. They dominated.
They had exactly 80 offensive plays, Bengals. I mean, that's about 15 above normal. So that's going to translate to a lot of extra fantasy production. They're not going to get that every week, but they are going to throw the crap out of the ball. The Bengals defense isn't getting any better. Trey Hendrickson is going to be out again going forward. He doesn't seem to have any timeline in sight. The big thing here, though, is the Bengals running back situation with Samaje Perine back. Because the Bengals ran so many plays, Chase Brown essentially got his usual workload. He played really well again. Yeah, he had 22 touches. He went over 100 yards from scrimmage, but that's not something that you can hang your hat on because Samaje Perine came back and played a big role. It's just the play volume so inflated the usage for the running backs.
Yeah, and so we were on this way more than the market. We actually bet in the prop sub, we bet Chase Brown under 14.5 carries. Which, if you saw the usage after the game, that it was roughly 50-50 in touches between Brown and Perine, you'd been like, oh my God, that's a smash. Instead, they get off all these plays. Chase Brown ends up with 15 carries, Samaje Perine 14. Snaps were Chase Brown 50, Samaje Perine 33. And again, that is in a game that they controlled. So yeah, I mean, Perine is taking more base stuff than I thought he would before the year. And honestly, I thought Chase Brown played well enough while Samaje Perine was out to handle the overwhelming majority of base stuff. But clearly they like Perine and they're going to keep playing him in base some plus all the pass down stuff. So yeah, it's not great for Chase Brown. I still think it's good Joe Burrow's back, and I still think Chase Brown is fine, but it's not great that Perine is back, certainly. Last note, T. Higgins still in concussion protocol as of Monday. It was a nasty hit that he took, man, and I hope that he's back this week, but I'm not necessarily counting on it. In his absence, Mitchell Tinsley was targeted 9 times, including a bunch near the end zone. It only resulted in 2 catches for 22 yards. But, man, they threw it to him a ton. His expected fantasy points were through the roof. He might just not be good enough, but if T is out again, I'll at least be looking at Mitchell Tinsley.
Gesicki also got a bunch of scoring position targets and didn't come away with any of them. I was keying in on this because just for fun, I did a 3-way touchdown parlay with Tesla, Gesicki, and Keaton Mitchell. Got Keaton Mitchell and Tesla, but Gesicki could not come down to finish out the third leg.
Yep. Chargers, story number 3. So Amarian Hampton still not ready here in week 13. Some reports last week that he should be back in week 14. That's what they're targeting. But we shall see. In week 13, this past Sunday, with Hampton out again, Kimani Vidal goes off 25 carries, 126 yards, and a touchdown. Jared Patterson adds another 11 carries, 54 yards, and a touchdown as Chargers pull away in the second half. More on that in a second. Bigger story was the Justin Herbert injury. Hurts his left non-throwing hand during this game, plays through it, then has surgery on Monday, and it sounds like he's going to play week 14. Now, we've seen guys play with non-throwing shoulder injuries, non-throwing hand injuries. I get it. You can. I don't know how much this is going to affect him, though. Evan, what do you think about the Herbert injury and anything else Chargers related.
Man, this glove that they put on Justin Herbert's hand. I mean, first of all, it was like, he could not move his hand at all. His hand is literally broken. And they put this massive glove on, like a Super Mario Brothers glove. And they ran the crap out of it. He was still taking, he was taking almost everything out of the shotgun. It might have been everything out of the shotgun after the injury. But he's like, he totally can't use the left hand at all. And I assume that they'll continue to play that way. I assume that they'll continue to play super, super run heavy. Because, first of all, they can barely protect Justin Herbert, and now he's got a broken hand. I mean, this is all assuming that he's going to play. I think that he's going to at least try to play.
Yeah.
But this is where they could use Omari and Hampton, because they're going to have to saddle up their backfield for a lot of work. I think that's how they're going to have to play with a quarterback with a broken left hand who can't protect himself and isn't protected by his own teammates.
Do you have a gut feel on the split? Let's say Hampton plays, and again, this is the Monday night game, so Herbert does have an extra day. Monday night against the Eagles. Do you have a early gut on how the split will go between Vidal and Hampton here on Monday night?
No, I have no idea whatsoever. I don't think that we're doing this on Tuesday, early afternoon. I don't think that the Chargers coaching staff even has any idea what to expect out of Omari and Hampton. When did he get hurt? Week 4, week 5?
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, he's been out for a long, long time. He had a fracture in his foot or in his ankle.
Yeah.
I have no idea what to expect. And he was sort of expected to be back last week,
Yeah.
but then he was not. And the coaching comments this week from Jim Harbaugh, as of Monday, we're not like, oh yeah, he's definitely back. He's definitely playing. So I have no idea what to expect in terms of workload from Omari and Hampton.
Yeah. See, like, we're going to talk about Bucky Irving here in a second, and I could see them doing that. However, Vidal has played well enough that they don't have to. And so my gut is like more of what the Bears are doing right now with like a series by series split between Hampton and Vidal. And just going back to last week, Hampton did practice every day last week. And so I think they were being maybe a little bit cautious there with him, give him an extra week here. So I do expect him to be ready. Something around 50-50 between Vidal and Hampton to start, makes sense to me here against the Eagles. Last thing on the Chargers, it's just a lot of mouths to feed. We've been talking about this since everyone got healthy. McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen, they all ran 23 to 25 routes in this game. Gadsden, Trey Harris, they're all in the mix. And the thing about it is, they're all target earners. Like all these guys, none of them are just clear out guys that don't earn targets or whatever. They're all talented guys that earn targets. So when you have 5 guys out there just at the wide receiver and tight end position, it can be really volatile if you're not going to throw a lot. Really volatile.
Especially, exacerbated by the fact that they may go extremely run heavy moving forward.
Yep. Story number 4. Let's go to Tampa Bay. So the big story in Tampa, as I just mentioned, was the Bucs finally getting Bucky Irving back for this game. Similar to what's coming up with the Hampton Vidal situation, we weren't sure exactly how much Bucky would play. We talked about maybe 20 plays per half for him. We expected it to kind of be a hot hand situation. And Bucky, despite not playing in 2 months, he got the hot hand. And Bucky ended up handling 17 of 21 running back carries and got 2 targets here right out of the gate ahead of Rachaad White. Rachaad White started the game, but then really only played in 2-minute stuff after that. And Sean Tucker only played, barely played. So, yes, 9 snaps for Sean Tucker. So, yeah, Evan, what do you think of Bucky Irving's return here and anything else Bucs related?
I think it was promising. If you've been waiting on Bucky Irving to this point and you didn't use him this past week because you didn't know, it was a hot hand situation. Those can suck for fantasy bad. Now you know that you can use him. You can feel very confident because, as you mentioned, Sean Tucker got phased out essentially. Rachaad White started the game, but they don't have any inclination to feed him the football. He's shown that he is a somewhat decent role player, a breather back. Bucky Irving is the guy that they want to get the ball to. He showed that he's that guy this past week, and I think that he'll be that guy down the stretch.
And coming up for Bucky, home against Saints, home against Falcons, at Panthers, at Dolphins. So a pretty exciting schedule here for Bucky. And this is the kind of stuff in best ball that pays off so much. If you can get a Bucky team through, his advance rate is really poor. You get him through, and then he's really low owned in the playoff pods, and he can go off. I mean, Bucky's going to be very, very valuable here down the stretch. Final snaps, just for the record: Bucky 32, Rashad 23, Sean Tucker 9. Other big story out of Tampa: the return or possible return of Mike Evans. Remember, Evans broke his clavicle months ago. Maybe, God, what was that? Maybe week 7. His window might get opened this week. He's worth adding if he is on waivers in your league, just to see how it goes. And then Jalen McMillan, they're saying, also has a chance to come back here. So yeah, I mean, maybe the Bucs get some healthy bodies down the stretch here. Clearly, Chris Godwin, although he did drop it. I mean, he was open for and hit him in the hands. But yeah.
This was his best game, though.
Yeah, it was his best game.
I mean, he at least looked like he's a capable NFL player, because in his previous 3 appearances, Chris Godwin just looked like complete dust.
Yeah. Another quiet game for Emeka Egbuka here. Evans and maybe McMillan coming back would not be great for his target share either. It's hard for me to put my finger on exactly what's going on with Egbuka. I kind of just think he's running bad, but yeah, it hasn't been great lately for him either. Story 5, let's go to Houston. Texans get CJ Stroud back from the concussion. I actually thought CJ Stroud played a much better game than his stats for fantasy output showed. Made some really good throws, moved well in the pocket. They scored 2 touchdowns. They happen to be both runs, including like a kind of reverse-ish jet sweep type play to Nico Collins. Texans do knock off the Colts here, put themselves in position to possibly steal the AFC South. They are alive to do so. Their defense is just so good. Evan, what'd you think of CJ Stroud's return after the concussion absence?
Yeah, solid. I mean, it's probably one of his better games of the season. And he missed the bulk of 3 games with the concussion. And so, but coming back from this, I mean, you love to see, because he and Nico Collins seemed off in weeks 1 through 9 or whatever it was that, to start the season. But to see Nico Collins, to see CJ Stroud come back here and Nico Collins almost get 100 yards. Jaden Higgins, the ascension of Jaden Higgins continues. He's still not a true full-time player, but I think in essence, he is pretty clearly the Texans' number 2 option in the passing game and number 2 receiver. But I think that the way that he has finished the second half of the season has been a lot more promising, obviously, than the first half. This is kind of how your typical rookie season arc goes for a player that isn't, Tet McMillan into the number 1 receiver role. Jaden Higgins was quiet in the first half. He's starting to make some noise in the second half. That's really promising for them. They've got twin towers at wide receiver. They got starting wide receivers that are both 6'4".
Yeah. And just to circle back on Nico, I mean, it hasn't been the best season for the Texans overall. Stroud has been hurt. The defense has been incredible, which doesn't help for shootout stuff. But Nico Collins is still fantasy's number 10 wide receiver in points per game. I mean, the guy is just very, very good at the game. Just on the running backs real quick for the Texans, Woody Marks left for a little bit with a foot injury. He did get back into the game, but we'll watch that. It's just frustrating because we were on this Joe Mixon injury back in July. We did not think Joe Mixon was going to play, was draftable, took a ton of Woody Marks. He predictably ices Nick Chubb and still can't score fantasy points. CJ Stroud comes back here, gets off 35 attempts and 1 target for Woody Marks. So it's really frustrating to get the run out that we wanted for Woody Marks as a late round flyer. And he gets all these snaps and all these touches and has not put in the box score hardly at all this season. Pretty frustrating for him not to be involved in the passing game. All right, let's go to the NFC now. We will start with the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals got Marvin Harrison back here for this game against the Bucs. And honestly, much to my chagrin personally, Harrison was cooking early. I mean, I was wrong. He was back in the alpha role ahead of Michael Wilson in this first game back. Harrison catches 6 balls for 69 yards on 29 routes and then leaves due to a heel injury. Cardinals go on to lose the game. Evan, what do you think of Harrison's return? Any other Cardinals thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice for a minute, and now I'm worried about this heel injury. I mean, I don't think it's an Achilles injury. We would know about that by now, but the coaching comments from Jonathan Gannon, on Monday were like, we'll see about Marvin Harrison and his health. So that'll be a big story to watch because, obviously if Marvin Harrison is out, we have seen what Michael Wilson can do. Michael Wilson still had a fine game. But I think that we are, at least in terms of targets, he had 7 targets,
Mm-hmm.
but we have seen what he can do with Marvin Harrison out. And I mean, it sounds possible that Marvin Harrison can miss time because he did not re-enter.
Correct. They play the Rams on Sunday. And so Jacoby Brissett has now dropped back 45 or more times in 6 of his 7 starts this season. That is an outrageous number. Now, our models, want us to regress that. It's like he can't keep dropping back 45 times. They can't keep running 80 plays in a game. He just keeps doing it and doing it and doing it. They're going to play the Rams this week. They're probably going to be behind again. They could throw some pick sixes again. And that's the stuff that leads to Jacoby Brissett dropping back 45 or 50 times. I'd be excited to play Michael Wilson here if Marvin is out again.
And Greg Dortch also becomes a lesser factor if Marvin Harrison misses.
Yeah, a bigger factor if Marvin Harrison misses.
Yes, yeah, just lesser than
yes.
Wilson. Yeah.
Lesser than Michael Wilson. Let's go to the Falcons. So Kirk Cousins and the Falcons went to East Rutherford to face the Jets and lose 27-24, despite some true heroics from Bijan Robinson, man. I mean, highest score on the slate, 33 DraftKings points. And I also thought Kyle Pitts played one of the better games he's played in a really long time. So they get those performances, and they still lose to the Jets. Evan, what do you think of Falcons' loss?
They're just a terrible team. I mean, they're terrible. I mean, we've seen that. They showed some promise, flashed some promise early in the season. Their defense is just total buns. I mean, at this point, run funnel or pass funnel, run funnel, whatever. I don't care. They're bad any way you slice it. Everyone's going to get fired. The GM's going to get fired. The head coach is going to get fired. And they're just playing out the string. Hopefully, Drake London will be back.
Yeah, they're calling him day to day. Yeah.
Calling him day to day. Okay. That's better than week to week. But also we got to see what happens when, the opponent gains a lead on Atlanta. Bijan Robinson had a big game.
Yeah, exactly. Kyle Pitts has been the Falcons' target leader in all 3 games that Kirk Cousins has started. So, there's some small sample stuff. It could be noisy, but it certainly looks like Kirk Cousins prefers or likes to throw to Kyle Pitts, especially when Drake London is out. Speaking of Drake London being out, I mean, it's bad for Darnell Mooney right now. They get this play inside the 10-yard line, and what do they dial up? A screen to David Sills, not Darnell Mooney. The screen went to David Sills, who ran it in for a touchdown. And so with Drake London out, Darnell Mooney, again, just 15% of the targets. Scary, man. Scary on Darnell Mooney. I'm legit worried about this guy long-term if he cannot be earning targets when Drake London is even out for the Falcons. Panthers. Just an incredible win for the Panthers. Knock off the Rams, the team that many consider to be the NFL's best. And honestly, they do it in their style. Bryce Young only dropped back 24 times. Defense scores a touchdown. Rams commit 3 turnovers. Panthers don't turn it over at all. They run the ball, hide Bryce, win the game. And I'll give credit to Bryce. He made 2 awesome throws. I mean, one to Tedero McMillan. That was an awesome throw. And one to Coker. That was an awesome throw.
2 touchdowns, both on 4th down.
Yeah. So credit where it's due. But again, only 24 dropbacks here. Evan, great win for the Panthers. What did you think of their game against the Rams?
I mean, this is obviously they were helped by, Matthew Stafford turning the ball over. And by the way, falling behind Drake May in the MVP in MVP odds at sportsbooks. Right now, Drake May, last I checked like an hour ago, Drake May minus 135. Stafford had a fairly sizable lead entering this week.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a big game from that standpoint. This is exactly how the Panthers want to play. They want Bryce Young to be an efficient game manager. They want to run the crap out of the ball. Rico Dowdle had slowed down in recent weeks, and Chuba Hubbard, who kind of admitted that he came back a little early from his injury because he saw Rico Dowdle dominating. He is now clear. I think he looks like the better back now. Chuba Hubbard does. So I think that this will be largely a hot hand, but 50-50 timeshare for the foreseeable future in Carolina's backfield.
Yeah, Evan was on this, and we were light on projection on Rico. I didn't feel like great about it, but yeah, it proved to be true that Chuba is coming hard. Chuba led in snaps, 38-27. Rico Dowdle still had 20 opportunities, Chuba 19. But yeah, there was some hot hand stuff going on. I still think Rico is probably the favorite on early downs, but the gap is not wide at all right now. But I mean, this is ridiculous. Panthers are going on their bye. I mean, if anybody at the NFL is listening to this, we can't have buys when the fantasy playoffs are 1 week away. It's just.
Oh, I say more buys. We need more buys.
Earlier in the season or more teams in the middle of the season. Or it's anything but week 14 buys. Just, I don't dig it, man. I don't dig it at all.
It's kind of crazy.
I don't dig it. But Panthers are on one. All right. Bears. Speaking of big wins, this was the Black Friday game. Bears go to Philly. They run it 47 times for 281 yards, beat the Eagles, moved to 9-3, and now the Chicago Bears are somehow the NFC's number 1 seed, even though Caleb Williams completed just 47% of his passes in this game. The sports radio callers have to be excited. Evan, thoughts on the Bears win over the Eagles?
The banter on Chicago sports radio is much more enjoyable and interesting when the Bears are losing, but the Bears don't lose anymore. So I listen to different things. But this team is extremely well coached on both sides of the ball. I mean, they've had mass injuries on defense, and Dennis Allen has held that thing together. Backups have stepped up. They had an incredible offseason. I know we talk about, the offseason champs, like the Bears parlayed being the offseason champs into a 9-3 record and, technically the number 1 seed right now. They had an awesome draft. They're getting so much production from their draft. They rebuilt their offensive line. They've got, one of the best coaches in the NFL. I mean, Ben Johnson, he's got to be favored for coach of the year right now, right?
Vrabel's the favorite and Ben Johnson is second.
Okay. And then Dennis Allen. And they signed, Ryan Poles, their GM, to an extension in the offseason. And, everyone was like, what? Looking at his record and all that. And, I mean, that's looking pretty good right now.
Yeah.
But the one thing, and it's interesting, Ben Johnson in his press conferences is so honest. He's more honest than any coach in the NFL. And he goes, right now we are winning in spite of our passing game, which they are. They're winning with a dominant running game. They move people in the trenches, and they take the ball away on defense. But Caleb Williams has been very inaccurate. He's completing 58% of his passes on the season. He's 23rd in the NFL in passer rating. The thing is, though, you can flip that narrative on its head and say, well, they're doing all these other things right. What if they get the passing game to click? Then they become like a legit Super Bowl contender, because that's the only thing that is really missing from the Bears right now is an efficient passing game. Right now, Caleb, he has made his fair share of big plays, but on a down-to-down basis, he misses too many throws.
Yeah, agreed. And you can see that in all the numbers. I mean, Caleb's numbers are not that great, even though this team is 9-3.
And it's hurting the pass catchers. I mean, Rome Odunze, who looked like a true number 1 receiver early in the season, his catch rate on throws from Caleb Williams since the bye week, which they had an early bye in week 5, his catch rate is 43.6% on passes from Caleb. Colston Loveland is probably your best fantasy pass catcher. That's largely related to the fact that he plays tight end, which is the worst position in fantasy, which elevates him. And DJ Moore, he doesn't have big games. And Luther Burden is coming, but he's still a rotational player.
Yeah, Rome Odunze was wide open. I mean, ran a great route, was wide open in the front corner of the end zone. Caleb was kind of on the run in this game and just missed him. I mean, wide open. He could not have been more open, and Caleb just short-armed it to Rome. Rome's also had some drops, but his route share is also going down recently as well. He's been down around 70% of the routes, which isn't great either. So, yeah, I mean, not great for the passing game. You mentioned the defense, Evan. They got Jalen Johnson, and I think someone else back here in
Kyler
this game,
Gordon.
Kyler Gordon.
That's their best 2 cornerbacks.
And so similar to what we talked about with the Cowboys over the last couple of weeks, I kind of think that Bears defense might be coming stronger down the stretch and not one that we want to pick on as much as we did earlier in the season. What do you think about that?
I do. And eventually, and they're also still missing TJ Edwards, linebacker, and Tremaine Edmonds, linebacker. So, yes, I mean, I agree with that. The difference between the Cowboys right now are number one in the NFL in pressure rate on defense, and the Bears don't bring that kind of pressure. But the Bears, once they get all their dudes healthy, and as you mentioned, they are starting to get some of them back, they can be really good in the back seven, and that can make them a really difficult team to throw against, obviously.
Yeah, just to put a bow on the run game stuff. I mean, obviously this offensive line is built to run the football. They went basically series by series here between Swift and Monangai, and they've both been really, really good. I expect that to continue, just series by series rotating between Swift and Monangai. Evan mentioned Colson Loveland. He did run 7 more routes than Cole Kmet here. 26 routes for Loveland, 19 for Kmet on 40 Caleb Williams dropbacks. Truth or burden, 23 routes in this game, only 58% of the routes, but at least he's still ahead of Zacchaeus, who ran 9 routes. A few tough spots here for the Bears coming up. At Packers this week, then home against Browns, then home against Packers again. So 3 tough spots here for the Bears, but they will be ready for it. At least the run game will. Cowboys win their 3rd straight game. They beat the Eagles, remember, on Sunday in week 12, turn around 4 days later and beat the Chiefs. I mean, that's pretty strong. And the story to me in this game was CeeDee Lamb back. A lot of panic and nonsense around CeeDee Lamb. We talked about him being the best play on the Thanksgiving slate, and he goes off 7, 112, 1 on 9 targets. Evan, what do you think of Cowboys' impressive win over the Chiefs on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, what was so impressive to me about CeeDee Lamb, and we kind of knew that he was going to have a big game because Brian Schottenheimer said it before the game, but he got shadowed by Trent McDuffie, who was a 2-time All-Pro cornerback for Kansas City, and CeeDee Lamb pretty much cooked him. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is an elite player who has left a lot of yards and fantasy points on the board this year, but he is an elite talent, and we got to see that on Thanksgiving. And George Pickens was really impressive too. I mean, he was playing with multiple injuries. I don't think he was 100%, and he still had a really nice game for 6 for 88 and a 2-point conversion. Jake Ferguson, oh my God, and I have so much Jake Ferguson. He wound up with a fine game for a tight end, 5 for 36, I believe. Yeah, 5 for 36 on 6 targets, but he caught like a 35-yard touchdown and did not get his second foot down, and that was painful to see. The Cowboys, okay, and we've been talking about this for a couple weeks. Are there any great teams in the NFL right now? And I think that the answer is no. And I think that the national narrative is starting to pick up on this, especially after the Rams just got upset by Carolina. The Cowboys look as good as anyone.
Yeah.
Do they have the best offense in the league? It's up there. Their defense, I know it's only a 3-game sample, but they've played some pretty tough opponents, and their defense has been great since they acquired Quinnen Williams and got a bunch of guys back healthy. 70-1 Cowboys to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So the reason that it's 70-1, and I agree with you, anyone can win this year. Literally, I can't recall a year where the NFL is so flat in terms of team level stuff. The problem for the Cowboys is they're a dog to make the playoffs. I mean, right now they're like plus 270 just to make the playoffs because of the way things stack up with tiebreakers and stuff like that. So yeah, they're plus 270 to make the playoffs. If they can get in, I don't disagree that anyone can win. I mean, anyone can win this. I could see the Texans getting hot and dominating on defense and winning. It's not crazy.
Yep.
It's not
this
crazy.
Thursday night game, Dallas-Detroit, is massive for both teams. Big in fantasy because of the total. Massive in real life. I mean, it's a must-win for both teams.
Clearly. Let's go to the Packers. This was a very good win for the Packers. After so many of their touchdowns went to the run game and Josh Jacobs this season, we finally get some regression where Jordan Love throws for 4 touchdowns. Running backs don't score any. And Evan, our old friend, I mean, I've lost so much money on this guy in my life. I was actually happy for Dontavian Wicks to have the game of his life on the national stage on Thanksgiving. Wicks, 6 catches, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns to break the Thanksgiving slate at a cheap tag. Evan, what do you think of Packers' win on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, huge win. I mean, Jordan Love balled out. This might have been his best game of the season. He hasn't had the greatest year overall, but he balled out. Dontavian Wicks, he had his, I mean, this is the game of his career.
Yeah.
He had not, I think he had one touchdown, either one or zero touchdowns entering this game, and he had no games above 44 yards, and he just goes off on Thanksgiving. And you knew by the end of the first game that if you didn't have Dontavian Wicks, you probably weren't winning anything in Thanksgiving DFS. Another guy, Christian Watson wound up with a fine game, 4 for 80 and a touchdown. They really were trying to force feed him the ball. He wound up with 10 targets. He got badly pass interfered with on one potential catch. Me and my high school buddies have FFPC Maine where I think we lost by 4 points, and we had Christian Watson in there. And he had a lot of opportunities in this game. Some of the plays where he didn't come down with the ball were well defended by the Lions. Sometimes it was on Watson. Sometimes it was because he got interfered with. But I think ultimately he had a disappointing game, finishing with 4 for 80 and a touchdown on 10 targets. His air yards, I haven't looked at, they must have been through the roof.
Yeah, a lot of XFP for Christian Watson in that game. This was the first game back from the knee injury for Josh Jacobs. He only played 53% of the snaps, but 17 carries for Jacobs compared to just 4 for Emmanuel Wilson. And again, in big games, I think they want Josh Jacobs to handle almost everything, even though Emmanuel Wilson has given them some really, really good snaps this season. Other injury news, Matthew Golden might be back this week. Jaden Reed, we'll see. Haven't seen any positive updates on him lately. But yeah, when those guys are out, Dobbs, Watson, and Wicks, they basically ran all the routes. And, when Jordan Love has good games and they get pushed, those guys can certainly perform well. Last note, Marshawn Lloyd had his practice window opened here coming off the hamstring injury. Not a lot of optimism for me on Marshawn Lloyd, especially given the way that Emmanuel Wilson has played, but I just wanted to note that. Rams. Just a stunning loss for the Rams in Carolina. Matthew Stafford threw a pick 6. Matthew Stafford threw another interception. Matthew Stafford lost a fumble, and now they have lost their grip on the NFC's number 1 seed. Stafford has lost his grip on the MVP race as well. Evan, what happened to the Rams down there in Carolina?
They didn't stop the run. Stafford threw picks, and Bryce Young made big-time plays on 4th down. And there you have it.
Yeah. We continue to see a lot of Blake Corum. Kyron Williams was briefly banged up in this game with an ankle issue, but he came back in, and they say that he's fine. But even in this tight game, even in a big game, opportunities were only Kyron 14, Blake Corum 7. And Corum was getting full drives to himself. And when that happens, you can do things like get a 2-yard touchdown run, as Blake Corum did here in this game. So yeah, there's a lot of people out there. They were laughing at us earlier. A lot of people now are saying Blake Corum's more explosive. Blake Corum's got to play ahead of Kyron if they want to win the Super Bowl. And we're seeing a lot of this series by series rotation stuff continuing. The tight ends for the Rams. So I thought Colby Parkinson was in play as a punt this week with Tyler Higbee out. He still only ended up running 13 routes. Parkinson, 13 routes. Davis Allen, 9. Terrence Ferguson, 9. They did do less of the multiple tight end stuff, the 3 tight end, 2 tight end stuff, than they had been when Higbee was healthy. Vikings. Well, Evan, a lot of people were asking for Max Brosmer. I think Evan was asking for Max Brosmer. And it turns out they didn't want that either. This was a very difficult spot at Seattle. But Brosmer face plants in true J.J. McCarthy fashion. Vikings lose 26-0 as Brosmer gets picked off 4 times and takes 4 sacks. By the way, on Monday, Vikings announced J.J. McCarthy is expected to clear protocol and start in Week 14. So a 1-week ride on the Brosmer experience, Evan, leads to 30 DraftKings points for Seattle's defense. 30 for Seattle's defense. Evan, what do you think of the Vikings and Brosmer?
Well, Max Brosmer had the reputation of being a very, very smart guy, but that doesn't always translate to being a very, very smart football player. And we saw that when he literally flipped the ball to the Seahawks defense, who easily took it home for a touchdown. And I think that we can all say collectively with confidence that by the year 2029, Max Brosmer will be the passing game coordinator at Northwestern.
JJ McCarthy coming back this week, Evan. I mean, I I have Addison, I have Jefferson in spots. I'm just like basically writing it to zero, and maybe that's too harsh, but I'm like, how am I going to get points from these guys? Any hope for you that McCarthy can come back off this absence and show up reasonably in week 14?
No, I don't think so. I don't think his teammates even have confidence in him at this point. With that FFPC main event team that we lost by 4 points, we had Justin Jefferson on that thing too. So, I mean, Max Payne, no pun intended.
They play Commanders this week. McCarthy home against the Commanders this week. Commanders off this overtime slugfest against the Broncos. They have to go on the road to Minnesota. They have still, I know the defense played okay against the Broncos. This is like the spot for McCarthy. And I know I've said that before. I don't think he's going to play well, but if he is going to play well, this is a spot to do it for sure.
Also, Aaron Jones aggravated his AC joint sprain.
Yeah, they're calling him day-to-day. They say it's not serious on Aaron Jones, but we'll see there. I would note that it wasn't all Jordan Mason after Aaron Jones left. Xavier Scott got some run. Now, it was a blowout, so maybe in a closer game, if Jones misses, they go all Mason. But yeah, that's one to watch for sure. Saints fell behind big early in this game against the Dolphins. They do mount a second half comeback, but fall short, lose 21-17 in Miami. Story to me was the debut of Devin Neal as the Saints feature back. He got 14 carries, only averaged 3.4 yards per carry, did catch all three of his targets, but only an 8% target share. I guess the good news was Taysom Hill didn't steal very much from Devin Neal. Taysom Hill only had 5 snaps in the backfield, only 12 overall. So underwhelming debut for Devin Neal as the feature back. Evan, what do you think about that or any other Saints thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's the friggin' Saints, but we got to talk about them. So Tyler Shuck had another decent game, I thought. He's competent enough to get the ball to Devon Vele and Chris Olave so that they can be fairly productive fantasy commodities. And Juwan Johnson. Johnson, 5 for 39 at this point. That's a very, very good game for a fantasy tight end. So we'll take what we can get from this offense. And Tyler Shuck, he's got a chance to be a fine backup in the league, I think.
Yeah, and matchups are good, and like I talked about Devon Vele, I don't think he's very good. I thought the trade they made was terrible, but he's running every route, and they play the Bucs this week, like the pass funneling Bucs. So Vele, Olave, and Juwan will all be on my radar this week. They also still get to play Panthers, Jets, and Titans this season, do the Saints. Let's go to the Giants. Jackson Dart returned from his concussion last night for Monday Night Football. There was a report from Ronan that they would limit or eliminate Jackson Dart designed runs out of these fears about him taking too many big hits. Well, they did that for the most part. Jackson Dart only ran 4 times in this game for 20 yards. He took a huge hit early along the sideline, got absolutely decleated on the sideline. I guess my problem for fantasy and really for real life too is if Jackson Dart's not going to be a wild man out there, if he's not going to be like early career Josh Allen, that's a big hit to him in fantasy. And I think in real life as well. So yeah, Evan, thoughts on the Dart stuff from last night? Any other Giants takes?
Well, I saw a quote from Jackson Dart after the game. And I don't even know with the Giants, who knows? It could be Wesley Steinberg tweeting that Abdul Carter has been benched for watching pornography or something like that. Who knows if it's real at this point? I can't tell. But Jackson Dart was like, no, I'm not going to change the way that I play. I play this way, and this is how I'm going to play. And so even if they pull out all the design runs, Jackson Dart is going to go out there and still put himself in harm's way. That can be fun until the fun's over and he's back in the medical tent.
Yes. For the record, Abdul Carter is vehemently denying the parody account that said he was in a team meeting and took his iPhone, wasn't connected to his Bluetooth, whatever, and he was watching porn in a meeting. He has vehemently denied that. It was a parody account that tweeted that. And no, but there is something going on.
I had multiple people texting me that, and I was like, dude, that is a parody account.
I know. But the actual story is that he's been missing stuff, and they benched him, so that's not great either there for
He only
after the
has
party.
1.5 sacks on the season
Yeah.
as well.
Giants are another team that has the bye, and that matters for Tyrone Tracy, who got hurt in this game. He ended up actually getting carted off due to a hip injury. Devin Singletary, I thought, played a good game. He had 15 touches, turned that into 102 yards and a touchdown. If Tracy is out, you could at least consider Devin Singletary in a pinch. But again, bye in week 14 for the Giants. Let's go to the Eagles. Concern around the Eagles continues to mount. They scored just 15 points in a home game against the Bears on Black Friday, fall to 8-4. The Eagles have not scored more than 21 points in a game in a month. They literally cannot generate any open space for Saquon Barkley, and they're still refusing to fire or demote offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo. So it's not good, Evan. There is full-blown panic now on the Eagles offense, and the defense didn't play a very good game here either, to be fair. They got run right up the gut on. What do you think about Eagles? Dead or a chance to revive this offensive season?
Well, we've seen it go both ways. I think it was in 2023 where they just died at the end of the season, and last year they went through a big lull and then they got it together. So who knows with this team? It could go either way. I think that right now, though, with the state of their offensive line, because Lane Johnson is on IR,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
and none of the other guys. And they have this thing where, and you're starting to see more and more about it, how they play Grant Calcaterra, who cannot block whatsoever on a ton of their running plays. Like the vast majority of their running plays, their backup tight end, Grant Calcaterra, he's just getting steamrolled, and they don't make adjustments. And as Greg Cosell has talked about of NFL Films, they don't do anything to help the receivers, and they can't run the ball. So they can't run the ball like at all, and they're not helping their receivers get open. And A.J. Brown can still have a good game here or there.
He played a really good game, but yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. But and Devontae Smith did the week before. But like the way that everything is going right now, it does not look promising. And I don't know that the play of the offensive line even has a chance to bounce back. And that's what this offense and team is so much built around, with draft picks and money and everything else. And the investment into Saquon Barkley doesn't make sense when you can't run block. We saw that for years in New York.
Yeah. No, it's not good. Everything is predicated off the run game, as Evan said. They do have some spots where they might be able to run the ball. At Chargers, then versus Raiders, at Commanders, at Bills. So, these are some spots where even mediocre running teams are able to run the ball on most of these teams. And so, there's some optimism there. The other thing that I would try to change if I was the Eagles, well, obviously I would get rid of Patullo. Whether it's whatever it is, he has been a massive downgrade from Kellen Moore. So, but beyond that, you got to encourage Jalen Hurts to take more risks. He has been so risk averse, and if you're not going to be able to run the ball and your defense is not playing that well, you got to take some risks, and he is hesitant to do so. But he started to take some more to A.J. Brown, and they, started throwing more on first down in the second half of that game. They're going to have to do more of that. They're just going to have to do more of that. Niners go to windy, cold Cleveland and win 26-8. It's tough to have many takeaways here due to the weather and the way Cleveland played, but McCaffrey was once again extremely inefficient on the ground, but 24 more opportunities, just continues to lap the field in terms of role every week. Evan, any thoughts on Niners game in Cleveland?
Yeah, this was a very painful one because I was on the Browns. I guess we'll talk about the Browns when we get to the Browns.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Browns shut down the 49ers running game. This was a severely weather affected game. So you didn't see numbers in the passing game at all. And that's what's going to happen in games where teams play at Cleveland. They've got a really good defense, and the weather affects the game, and that's what happened with San Francisco.
Yeah, and for the McCaffrey people, hopefully you have a lead because Niners are on a bye this week. Then they play Titans, Colts, and Bears in fantasy playoffs. But yes, again, bye for the Niners here in week 14. Seahawks got to face Brosmer, so it's tough to have takeaways here also. I will say I thought this was one of the worst offensive performances of the season for the Seahawks. Just no one really noticed it because they rolled so easily. But Sam Darnold dropped back 30 times, which is, for him, it's actually a decent number. He turned that into a pathetic 128 yards, no touchdowns, took 4 sacks. So Brian Flores actually was cooking it a little bit against Darnold, just didn't show up in the box score because Brosmer was so bad. Evan, any thoughts on Seahawks game against the Vikings?
This is just a really difficult game to have any kind of takeaways from. I mean, because as you mentioned, Brosmer on the other side, the other team didn't even score a single point. So, I mean, everyone kind of like, oh, this guy didn't play well. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, like it's the game was just affected so much by the opponent that I don't even have any takeaways.
Yeah, somebody sent a note. Evan had his score prediction for this game in matchups 27-0. He was wrong. It was 30-0. So the rare predicted shootout.
26-0.
26-0. The rare predicted
it was 1
shootout.
point off, Adam.
The rare predicted shootout comes to fruition.
The rare predicted shutout.
Shutout. The rare predicted shut. I bungled that whole thing. Evan predicted 27-0. The final score was 26-0. The rare predicted shutout hits for Evan.
Yeah, at least I got something almost right in week 13.
The Rashid Shaheed stuff, we've talked about it every week, basically since the trade. You know, the fears have come true. He's behind Kupp. They don't drop back a ton. They don't run a ton of 11 personnel. And so in most games, he's just not getting enough targets, is Rashid Shaheed, period. He would have been way better off staying in New Orleans for fantasy or going to Buffalo or really anything else than the way it ran out. The other story at running back, you know, we came into this game with a pretty big Kenneth Walker projection, and we were kind of right. I mean, he was the feature back, especially early. He finished in snaps ahead 37-26. Charbonnet did finish with more carries, but the intention was there for Walker to be the feature back again. He just never really got going, and they still prefer Charbonnet around the goal line. So, you know, I thought it was okay for Walker, not great, and obviously the production wasn't there outside of a couple big plays. Last NFC team is the Washington football team. This was the Sunday night game against the Broncos. Given the situation, I actually thought the Commanders played an amazing game. Like, legit credit to Marcus Mariota, who, by the way, Marcus Mariota is going to be a free agent this offseason, and I know no one's excited about it, but if you're going to be throwing J.J. McCarthy and Brosmer and whatever and Dylan Gabriel and shit, they're like, why can't Marcus Mariota or Jameis Winston get a job this offseason? Mariota was excellent against this dominant Broncos defense. And maybe the best part of it was Terry McLaurin returned and was unreal. Led all wide receivers this week in expected fantasy points, draws 14 targets, and a lot of them against Patrick Surtain, still caught 796 and a touchdown. So, Evan, what do you think of Mariota and the Commanders' impressive performance against the Broncos?
Yeah, it was a very inspired game. I mean, and Mariota, like, the Washington pass catchers dropped a lot of passes in this game. It could have been better for Marcus Mariota, who only averaged 5.9 yards per pass attempt, but, you know, obviously he led the team in passing. He also led the team in rushing. We saw Chris Rodriguez, again, kind of affirm that he's the number one back in Washington. Doesn't matter a whole lot. But Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, I mean, if he hasn't been dropped in your fantasy league, we've seen what the upside is with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He's been a drop because also Jeremy McNichols plays in the passing game.
Yeah.
How are we feeling about Jaden Daniels?
Yeah.
This point in the week?
So, big question is, will he be back? He was not cleared for contact as of Monday. Again, this is a left non-throwing elbow injury. Doesn't mean that he's been ruled out for week 14, but as of Monday, he still had not been cleared for contact. So, yeah, I would just call it day-to-day on Jaden Daniels. I do think that they want him to play down the stretch. Like, I don't think they're going to sit him out if he gets cleared. I don't think.
What a horribly lost season for a guy who had such an amazing rookie year. Treylon Burks did make a great 5-yard touchdown catch, one-handed over Riley. Riley Moss had perfect coverage, and Treylon still caught it. Unfortunately, didn't do anything else in the game. But, you know, a reminder, Treylon Burks was a first-round pick.
Indeed, he was. Reminder, there is no better way to get closer to the action than with the DraftKings Daily Fantasy. Right now, our partners at DK are giving new customers a shot to play free for their share of millions in prizes with their first deposit on the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app. Simply download the app, enter promo code ETR during sign up to play free for your share of millions with your first deposit. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. Minimum $5 deposit required. One single-use $3 ticket rewarded that expires in 14 days. Ends December 31st. See terms at DraftKings.com/promotions. Let's go to the AFC now. We'll start with the Baltimore Ravens. Remember in week 11, the Ravens barely beat the Browns. And then in week 12, they really struggled against the Jets. And then in week 13, Thanksgiving, they scored just 14 points at home against one of the NFL's worst defenses in the Bengals, lose the game, fall to 6-6. This is beyond the point of concern at this point on Lamar Jackson. He has been under 10 fantasy points in 3 straight games. Lamar Jackson has 0 runs of 20 plus yards all season. Obviously, everyone says he's hurt. Ravens deny it, say he's fine. Clearly, something's going on here with Lamar Jackson. Evan, what do you think of that and their game against the Bengals?
Well, I think he's definitely well shy of 100%. We also might be looking at this game a little bit differently out of Lamar head. Isaiah likely not fumbled the ball going into the end zone, and a totally, pretty phantom
Yes.
OPI call on Zay Flowers.
Terrible call.
Which, again, Zay Flowers was on that FFPC main event team that I was talking about that lost by 4 points. But I digress. Like, we might be looking at things a lot differently if those 2 plays had been converted.
Yep, that's fair. But ankle, hamstring, there's something going on here where Lamar is not.
Absolutely. It shows up in his rushing. Even if he hits those 2 TDs, and he's averaging freaking 10 yards per pass attempt, it's still only 6 for 27 rushing.
Yeah, there was a play where he tried to sprint out to the right and he got run down by a defensive lineman on the Bengals. And even the broadcast, I think, noted, they're like, oh my God, Lamar just got caught from behind by a defensive lineman. Like, you just didn't see that before. People keep trying to do the Keaton Mitchell thing when Justice Hill is out. I get it. I know Keaton scored, but it's been Rasheen Ali. Rasheen Ali played 29 snaps. Keaton Mitchell played just 8 in this game, even with Justice Hill out. Again, Keaton Mitchell, I consider the direct backup to Derrick Henry, not the direct backup to Justice Hill. Mark Andrews ran 26 routes, likely 22. Here, as Evan said, likely should have had a really absurd game against this woeful Bengals tight end defense, but fumble going into the end zone. And yeah, the offensive pass interference, that was just so weak. Like, you should be able to challenge pass interference both ways. I think that'd be a good improvement to the replay system. You can throw a challenge flag for DPI or OPI because they're such huge plays. We're talking about 50-yard touchdowns that are being decided on judgment calls that are bang, bang. Bills went to Pittsburgh without either of their starting offensive tackles. No problem. They execute this very run-heavy game plan, dominate with defense, win 26-7. They ran it 51 times in this game, Evan, including 32 for James Cook. What did you think of Bills' win in Pittsburgh?
I thought they might go about it this way because the Bills were missing both of their starting offensive tackles. They have James Cook, who they're paying a lot of money to and is awesome. You can run on the Steelers at least a little bit. They definitely ran on them in this game. And it made all, and Josh Allen had taken 8 sacks in the previous game. So it made all the sense in the world for the Bills to just put the ball in James Cook's belly as often as possible. He also led the team in receiving, which, he didn't do that much as receiving because the Bills they threw for 123 yards. James Cook had 3 for 33. Nobody else did anything in the pass catcher core. But yeah, I kind of saw this coming a little bit. 35 touches for James Cook, and Ray Davis also had a nice game. This was clearly the game plan. When you can get Ray Davis 9 for 62 behind your starter who goes 32 for 144, and the quarterback goes 8 for 38 and a touchdown. Like, they game planned to attack the Steelers with the running game.
Yeah, in order to execute that game plan to be really run heavy, you need to defend well. And they did great against Aaron Rodgers here. Their next game is against Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and the Cincinnati Bengals. So they might have to open it up a little bit more here going forward. Good to see Keon Coleman back for this game after the 2-game, whatever you want to call it, healthy scratch, demotion, whatever. 13 routes on 28 dropbacks for Keon Coleman did get the touchdown. Let's go to the Browns. This was Shedeur Sanders' first career home start. Came in a pretty good matchup against San Francisco, but it was really cold. It was really windy. Shedeur does complete 16 of 25 passes, 149 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, took 3 sacks. It was far from good, but certainly wasn't as bad as like Brosmer or McCarthy. Evan, what'd you think of Shedeur's second NFL start?
It just hurt badly because, I was high on the Browns covering the spread, maybe even winning against San Francisco, and the Browns did outgain the 49ers. They stopped Christian McCaffrey at least from an efficiency standpoint, but it was bad. It was a bad signal when I saw that the line was moving away from the Browns to begin the game. And then when Shedeur missed Jerry Jeudy and the Shedeur people are blaming it on Jerry Jeudy. But whatever the case may be, Jerry Jeudy was behind the 49ers defense and the ball was not completed to Jerry Jeudy. And at that point I was like, oh God,
Yeah.
Here we go. We're probably going to lose this one. And we did. Special teams was really bad for the Browns as well. I thought that, Judkins had a good game. But, another weather-affected game. Yeah. I saw your tweet about Harold Fannin. He's had an awesome season for a rookie tight end, third-round rookie tight end, icing David Njoku, who's like, at least before this year, was a Pro Bowl caliber tight end. I mean, that's a building block for Cleveland. And I know that Kevin Stefanski's probably going to be fired. I think that the Browns should retain Andrew Berry. I think he's a really good GM. I think the problems start up top for the Browns. We could go all into that. But I think the Browns need to keep Andrew Berry.
I mean, I'm shocked because I think David Njoku is a very good NFL player. And Fannin came in right away and iced him. This season, Fannin seeing 18% of the targets, Njoku 12. Yards per route run, Fannin 1.59, Njoku 1.07. Quarterbacks have a way better passer rating when targeting Fannin also, which is impressive, man. So, yeah, I agree that Fannin is a building block. I don't understand the decision not to trade David Njoku here, but before the trade deadline. But yeah, he wanted to stay and they let him stay.
But back to Shedeur.
Yeah.
There was a stat from Next Gen Stats that he held on to the ball for 3.5 seconds on average before releasing it, was like the most by any Browns quarterback in the last 3 years. You could see those bad habits that he developed at Colorado really come back to haunt him in this game. And he ultimately only took 3 sacks on 28 dropbacks. But this was a 49ers defense that could not bring pressure, the lowest pressure rate in the NFL. And Shedeur Sanders was taking sacks that he himself created.
Yep. Last note for me on Cleveland, Dylan Sampson got banged up here with a calf issue. Doesn't sound serious. I would consider him day to day. I still want to see more of that thunder and lightning down the stretch with Judkins and Sampson. I think they want to go that way, but obviously Sampson has to be healthy. Broncos. It takes overtime, but Broncos escape with a win over the Commanders on Sunday night. I was watching the running back usage closest. RJ Harvey just 2.7 yards per carry against the Commanders. That's pretty concerning. But as we talked about last week, the goal line stuff in week 12 to Jaleel McLaughlin was fluky. And you saw that on Sunday night. RJ Harvey was the one that got 2 short touchdowns, also saw 4 targets. So anytime you can see 4 targets in a game and get the goal line work, you're going to have fantasy upside at the running back position. Evan, what do you think of RJ Harvey and any other Broncos thoughts?
The Broncos have a great record. They have won so many games like at the last second, with a fourth quarter rally, overtime. But, again, in a year where there are no dominant teams, I mean, they're like as good as anybody. I heard a stat from Robert Mays, who we've had on the show of The Athletic. In this game, the Broncos had minus 41 yards rushing versus expectation. So they were leaving a ton of yards on the field in the running game. And obviously that starts with RJ Harvey. I mean, the usage for RJ Harvey, I mean, I think this is about as good as it's going to get, because Sean Payton is going to use three backs.
Yeah.
He's going to use Tyler Bidet. He's going to use Jaleel McLaughlin. But he's using RJ Harvey in scoring position, and RJ Harvey doesn't run all the routes, but when he is in the game, they throw him the ball. But in terms of his rushing efficiency, he has been subpar, to say the least. He's leaving yards on the field.
For sure, yeah. And if J.K. Dobbins had stayed healthy, there's no doubt in my mind that J.K. Dobbins would still have this role ahead of R.J. Harvey. I still like R.J. Harvey here. They do get the Raiders next. And also, I should note, Patrick Surtain was back in this game. Didn't think he played his best game, did Surtain, but he was back here and, looked healthy. Colts. There's been a lot of signs that the Colts magic is wearing out. Now they have lost 3 of their last 4 games. Story coming into this one was Daniel Jones would be trying to play through a fracture in his leg. He only ran 1 time for 1 yard. He only completed 14 of 27 passes. Now, they were playing the Texans defense. Texans defense is one of the best in the league. So I'm not going to sit here and say this was all because of the fracture in Daniel Jones' leg. But no matter how you want to slice it, it was not a good offensive performance. Evan, what do you think of Colts offense right now coming out of this loss to the Texans?
I think that they played the best defense in the league, and their quarterback has a broken leg, and it is not even the least bit surprising that they lost or that they only scored 16 points. And all their pass catchers are healthy. And as we've talked about ad nauseum, whenever all the Colts pass catchers are healthy, it's really hard to get a gauge on who's going to do what. I don't know if you've heard, Adam, but Alec Pierce is in a contract year, and he's going to get a very big contract. He did play really well in this game, but still going on a week-to-week basis, Michael Pittman being healthy, Josh Downs being healthy, Tyler Warren, Alec Pierce. The foundation of the offense is still Jonathan Taylor. It's hard to get a gauge on who's going to do what, especially when you're in the pass catcher court, especially when you're playing a defense like the Texans, who, my God, are they physical. They are, and they're not even that great of a run defense, really. But they will shut you down. They will shut down your passing game and not allow you to score points, and that's what they did to beat the Colts.
Yeah, I wouldn't write off Michael Pittman. I think he saw a lot of Derek Stingley in this game. So, it's going to be kind of pendulum-y, I think, between Pierce and Pittman here for sure. Massive game coming up next for the Colts. Them and the Jaguars are battling for the AFC South title, and the Texans are in the mix as well. Colts play at Jaguars this week and then have to play at Seattle the week after, and probably are not going to have Sauce Gardner for either of those games. Sauce Gardner went down early in this one with a calf issue. I thought it might have been his Achilles. Turned out to just be a calf thing, and he'll be out a couple weeks. Not ideal there.
Huge loss. I mean, you could just feel the deflation with the Colts at this point.
Let's go to the Jaguars. Jaguars played on the road at Tennessee, and they take care of business easily. Was good to see Brian Thomas Jr. back in the lineup for this game. Immediately back to 84% of the routes, but gets outplayed massively by Jacoby Myers, and Brian Thomas does nothing in the box score yet again. Evan, what do you think of BTJ's return? Any other Jaguars thoughts?
How about these Jaguars? The Jaguars are 8-4. Shane Waldron's Jaguars are 8-4. How about that? I heard Daniel Jeremiah and Brian Baldinger talking about this, and they think that Jacoby Myers is like the ultimate Rams style, Puka, Cooper Kupp sort of receiver, and that he's just like Liam Cohen comes from that lineage. Shane Waldron comes from that lineage. The Jaguars GM, James Gladstone, comes from that lineage, and that Brian Thomas is just not a fit for that style of offense, which I thought was really interesting. You remember there were trade rumors about Brian Thomas at the trade deadline. I wonder if he might get traded in the offseason at this point. But Jacoby Myers, with the dirty work sort of player that he is, winning on in-breaking routes, like this is something that all of a sudden is clicking, and it's clicking fast. And I thought that this was, and you got to leave room for context and the opponent, but this was one of Trevor Lawrence's better games.
Agreed. Travis Etienne, just 2.3 yards per carry in this game. And they also use Bashal Tutin around the goal line. And there's some quotes out there. I know Coach Speak Index had one of them about them actually liking Bashal Tutin. So it seemed like it might have been intentional that Tutin got both the goal line carries here and converted one of them. I wanted to note that. And then other note I had was Parker Washington went down with a hip injury in this game. We'll see on the status of, shout out Penn State, Parker Washington. Chiefs lose in Dallas on Thanksgiving 31-28, despite 4 touchdowns from Patrick Mahomes, including 2 to Rashee Rice, who remains unstoppable. But man, Chiefs are 6-6 now. Chiefs are 1-5 on the road. They play Houston and the Chargers next. It's possible the Chiefs are going to miss the playoffs this season here. Evan, thoughts on their Thanksgiving loss to the Cowboys and anything else going on with the Chiefs?
Yeah, I think that their probability right now, the Chiefs to make the playoffs is like 39%.
Yeah, I see plus 122 in the market. So yeah, something around there sounds right.
Yeah, so we'll see. Again, super wide open year. I mean, so here, Rashee Rice is just an absolute beast. Everything runs through him. He had so many targets in scoring position again. Kelsey scored a touchdown on Thanksgiving. I don't know. Everybody saw the game.
Yeah. The Xavier Worthy stuff continues to be troublesome. Yes, I think he's playing through injuries. Yes, he's come close to some big plays. All that said, Rashee Rice and Worthy have played 9 full games together with the Chiefs. In those games, Worthy has never had more than 5 catches. He has 1 total touchdown. He's never had more than 61 yards in a game. So it's hard for Worthy not to project well, considering Chiefs touchdown passing rate overall. Worthy's earning targets reasonably, but man, it has just been underperformance after underperformance for Xavier Worthy. Isaiah Pacheco was back for this game, and it was still Kareem Hunt as the feature back. Kareem Hunt, 42 snaps, Pacheco 20, Brashard Smith just 4, and carries were 14-3 for Hunt over Pacheco. I thought it would be a little bit closer there, especially after Kareem Hunt got 30 carries the Sunday before. 4 days later, he again plays well ahead of Pacheco. So yeah, I mean, clearly they prefer Kareem Hunt there.
They love Kareem Hunt for reasons that, we can sort of explain, but not fully comprehend.
Yeah. Raiders were actually tied with the Chargers at halftime of this game, 7-7. Then they got rolled in the second half. Just more of the same from the Raiders. Yeah, they got rid of Chip Kelly. They bring in Greg Olsen. I didn't notice many changes, just inept run blocking. Ashton Genty, 15 carries for 31 yards. Genty is now at 3.5 yards per carry on the season. I saw our friends at Underdog put out the tweet comparing Genty's first-year stats to Trent Richardson's first-year stats. Oh. This is not to say that Ashton Genty sucks or Trent Richardson sucks. When your team sucks, when your offensive line sucks, you're not going to be able to run the football, and that's why it's really hard to take a running back in the top 10. By the time the Raiders have a good offensive line, by the time they're good, Genty's going to be used up. Running back careers could be over by that point. So yeah, just a disaster again for the Raiders. Any thoughts on their game against the Chargers, Evan?
I really don't have any thoughts. Geno Smith taking a ton of sacks. We can use defenses against them. On to the next one.
You know what? Brock Bowers only saw 4 targets here, which is inexcusable. 17%. He had 4 sick plays. I mean, this guy is just incredible. Absolutely incredible. You got to throw it to him more than 4 times in a game. It's preposterous. Dolphins beat the Saints behind a predictably big game from Devon Achane. He goes off for 134 rushing yards and a touchdown. Great to win the game. I thought Tua was really bad. And 12 completions on 23 attempts, takes 4 sacks. I really liked Jalen Waddle this week, and Tua just did not play well enough for Waddle to have a big game here. Evan, any thoughts on Dolphins win over the Saints?
Yeah, really disappointing. The Saints have been a pass funnel. Tua throws for 157 yards, so none of the pass catchers even hit 50 yards. The Dolphins, though, they've now won 4 of their last 5 games. Yeah. So I don't know. Do you think Mike McDaniel's going to be able to hang in there for 2026?
I do. Yeah. I do. And I think the owner likes him. And yeah, I mean, no one's talking about how he's not a leader of men when they've won 4 out of 5 games. And you just got to win. You just got to win. That's the bottom line. One note for me on the Dolphins, Darren Waller was back here. He did run 20 routes on 29 dropbacks, which I didn't think that they would put him out there for that much. He did catch 2 balls for 47 yards. He had an end zone target that he was just out of bounds on. But yeah, man, at the tight end position, Darren Waller's in play if he's going to run 20 out of 29 routes. Darren Waller's in play. He clearly has a red zone role for this team. Patriots coast to a home win over the Giants last night. Big story was how would the running back split look in this Ramondre Stevenson's second game back from injury? Well, much to the chagrin of many fantasy bros, Ramondre Stevenson started the game. He outsnapped Travion 38-32. He outrouted Travion 22-16. Opportunities were 15 apiece. So relatively even here between Stevenson and Travion, even though all the underlying stats continue to point towards Travion as the better runner. Evan, what do you think of the split last night and any other Patriots thoughts?
Yeah, Travion almost doubled up Ramondre Stevenson in terms of yards per carry, but I think it's going to be 50-50 moving forward.
Yeah.
Drake May, again, moved back into the favorite for MVP race at sports books.
Yeah, by the way, it looks like only a 2-horse race. I mean, Drake May is like minus 130, Stafford's like plus 130, and no one else is even close. So it seems, the market is assuming that it's either going to be May or Stafford to be MVP here.
I hear that.
One other note for me on Patriots, Stephon Diggs, we've talked about this a few times. Again, limited playing time. 22 routes on 36 Drake May dropbacks. It is a tough click on Steph Diggs right now, last few weeks.
On any of the Patriots wide receivers, because they're playing so many dudes at this point. I mean, before, injuries kind of hit Kayshon Boutte and stuff, like Kyle Williams wasn't involved. He's now involved. Yeah. Stephon Diggs, obviously. Matt Collins has a role. Pop Douglas has his slot, situational slot role. Boutte's back healthy. So it's tough trying to pinpoint Patriots wide receivers to use in fantasy football. And this was a really nice matchup too. And no one helped you except for Boutte a little bit. He scored the touchdown, but he finished with 35 yards.
Yeah, and they have a bye in week 14 here, which is a relief, I guess, on the projection side, because it is very hard projections between these running backs and these wide receivers on a week-to-week basis. Jets. A.D. Mitchell, man. I talked about him a ton early in best ball drafting. We talked about it as a great throw-in for the Jets in the Sauce Gardner trade. And finally, after tons of prayer yards and drops and horrific catch rates and off-field issues, A.D. Mitchell finally breaks a slate 8-102-1 on 12 targets from Tyrod. Obviously, people are going to say he has to show that he can be consistent, but not many receivers in the NFL are as open as A.D. Mitchell is on a consistent basis, and he finally put in the box score here. Evan, what do you think of the sustainability of the A.D. Mitchell stuff and any other Jets thoughts?
I don't know about the sustainability, because we've seen almost 2 seasons of A.D. Mitchell so far, and he has not shown that. But again, we know that, this guy, he has different athletic ability, 6'2", 205, and he runs a 4.34. Okay. And he's also showed like after the catch ability. Daniel Jeremiah had him as the number 27 overall player in the 2024 draft. So it's no secret. It's just a matter of him nailing down, solidifying a role. I think that if you kind of fast forward into the future, Garrett Wilson is a great Z receiver. A.D. Mitchell would be your X receiver. That's kind of a fun mix. Mason Taylor at tight end. Maybe Mechie can come along and be your slot receiver. That's not terrible. It's got a chance at least. That's for the future. Down the stretch, looks like Tyrod Taylor is going to be the guy. He's willing to throw the ball, get the ball out of his hands, which Justin Fields has always had a problem doing. That's good news for A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah, I don't think Tyrod Taylor is good at this point in his career, but he is stabilizing the offense to some degree. And speaking of stabilizing, they're asking Breece Hall to play out the string in a contract year. He played 58 out of 66 snaps here. Isaiah Davis only 8 snaps. So, yeah, they're riding Breece Hall pretty hard here on a week-to-week basis. Steelers muster just 7 points in a home loss to the Bills. Aaron Rodgers, 10 of 21 for 117, no touchdowns. They couldn't run the ball. After the game, Rodgers is whining about his receivers. I mean, this was an ugly, ugly outing for the Steelers offense against the Bills. Evan, what do you think of their game?
Yeah, and they didn't run the ball well either. And I mean, this was a close game at half. I mean, it was a 7-3 game at half. The Steelers were winning at half, and you're supposed to be able to run the ball on the Bills. Especially they were without their starting middle linebacker too, Terrell Bernard. Just a piss poor offensive effort, piss poor defensive effort as well. The Steelers are kind of in shambles coming off of this game. They kind of needed this game too.
Yeah.
And they ultimately were not competitive.
Yeah, and they have to play at Baltimore next. I do not have high hopes for the offense rebounding in this spot. We have seen Ravens defense play much, much better lately, even if they underperformed a little against the Bengals on Thanksgiving. Last team today is the Titans. Titans fall to 1-11. They scored just 3 points in a home game against the Jaguars. Cam Ward dropped back 42 times, and that resulted in 141 passing yards. So I know some people were excited about Cam Ward taking leaps forward. He had Ayamanor here. He had DK. He had Chig. He had Gunnar Helm. He was at home, and they scored 3 points on 42 dropbacks. Evan, what do you think of Titans' latest loss?
I got nothing to say. I mean, there's nothing positive to say, like literally at all.
Well,
I mean, maybe it would have been interesting if like Chig would have missed, and maybe if Gunnar Helm.
I would have played Gunnar Helm on DraftKings if Chig missed for sure.
Yeah, and that probably would have not went well.
Yeah,
but I mean, I probably would have played him too. I don't know that the backfield is like 50-50.
Well, yeah, that's
There's a bunch of different receivers. There's 2 tight ends, and it's a bad offense, and it's fantasy football misery.
That's what I was going to say. Like, even if you like some of these guys, and I do like DK, I do like Gunnar, but they're all splitting, like Evan said. So they're basically all canceling each other out. The only good news for the Titans is they are on track to have the number 1 overall pick for the 2nd consecutive year.
They need to trade it.
Yeah.
They need a quarterback to emerge. Maybe this kid from Oregon to emerge. So somebody wants to trade up for the number 1 pick, because the Titans need a lot of help elsewhere.
Everywhere. All right. That is going to do it for another edition of the Team by Team pod. 2 important reminders. Hit subscribe on the YouTube machine. It is totally free, and you'll be alerted anytime that we post a new video. Also, Best Ball stuff is live. If you want to play playoff only Best Ball, you do need the Best Ball product. And Evan, myself, and Wiggins, as always, on Friday night, talking through Sunday's main DFS slate. You need in-season product if you would like to watch that or see all of our projections. For Evan, producer Ryan, producer Luke, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.